loving well and living generously. That is when Ocean Hills is at its best.
It is so fun to be here. I just think this is such a sweet and a dear room. Like, you know, I just seen you guys at church, or shameless little plug for boot camp. Some people here go to boot camp with Chrissy. If you ever do that, that's pretty fun. That's tonight. Maybe down the road. Some of these things that you've heard just might be a little overwhelming or down the road, but just believe me, it's just such a full journey. I'll share a few little things if they come up about, Lori, did Ashley give you a shot at putting the pictures up there? I'll just show you a couple quick. Here's my boys. These are 2 old pictures, but I just wanted you to know I have 3 boys. Tyler's 20 now. Reed and Braden have totally changed, but this was a while back. Reed is now a senior at San Marcos, and then the youngest one is now a freshman at San Marcos. So I've got a college and 2 high schoolers, and then one more is just our family. This is us dancing at a wedding, and this is very typical of us at a wedding. Everybody's sweaty, and it's really a crazy mess. So you can turn them off now. I am just so thrilled to be here, and I feel like I really get it. Like a lot of these, this is such a great place to be. Hey, I plugged boot camp. Did you hear me? This is such a rich environment, and some of you can sense that hearing these women who have 30-year-olds and 20-year-olds and foster and all these stories. I mean, this is an incredibly rich place, and I really get it. I mean, all of us kind of get it, right? Why we're here. I mean, we get it. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, we need to go somewhere and just kind of be. I mean, for instance, if I were to walk you through this morning alone, I want to tell you 2 things, because I don't want you to have any illusion just because I'm sharing, or maybe this is like my favorite outfit, this is my uniform, this is like what I wear to, in fact, I wore it out to dinner last night, and I decided, hey, I think this works. So I didn't even separate the shirts. I took the 2 shirts off, and then I put the 2 shirts back on, seriously. And then while I was getting ready for this, and I was like, you know, trying to get my thoughts together, my freshman, he had to wear a tie to school today. He's on the cross-country team, and they kind of dress up. It's kind of cool. He'd never done that. Scott's out of town, and so he's like, does anybody know how to do a tie? You know, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, get on YouTube. I know that's how Tyler did it. Just get on. And he like has a meltdown over 20 minutes while I'm like, I wish I could help you, but I got to put together Moms Together. You know, I got to get this together. So that was just this morning. That was like an hour ago. You know, so in case you have any illusion for any of us sharing that things are kind of neat and tidy and sealed together, you know, not true. So I just get it. You know, I remember it's just kind of a dear, I would call it even kind of a holy environment to walk in here, to park in the parking lot. And I saw several of you like, you know, unloading and holding the hand and watch out and walk and get up the escalator and make it all. I mean, you know, it takes you like 2 hours, right, to get from there to here. But it's such a holy time, you know. It's so intensive. And so I have a couple things to share, and then the format, and I know I'm kind of the kickoff person, and the format will be is that you'll get some time around your tables. And gosh, I'd just really encourage you to kind of embrace the few moments over this whole year that you could be sitting here just to soak up, to listen, to not get overwhelmed, to not feel this perfection thing going on that you have to be an arrival, but just to go like, you know, I want to hear, I want to get some perspective, I want to be refreshed. And this is a great place to be. This is really a great place to be. And whatever, it's going to be costly, it's going to be really hard. You're going to have something happen like I did, you know, like putting the tie together meltdown, and you're going to say, you know what, I'll just make it next time. But I would really encourage you right now to just go, you know, I want to grab everything I can so that I can kind of do this overwhelming goal. So whatever it takes to get here, I think it's worth it. A couple things for me is that this is all about perspective, right? And many of you kind of said it's all about perspective. I remember in those early years, some of you at this stage, I remember trying to figure out how to, you know, breastfeed in public. I remember I had a very terrible scene at the Sears photography, because back when I was raising kids, you still went to Sears or that to get your portraits, because we didn't have that. So you've probably seen that kind of cruddy, gross-looking area down in Sears. It's like an alcove, and that's where everybody was. And I remember going like, my nursing pads were wet. I was like, oh my God, okay, I'll just sit right here, you know. And I just remember going, oh, bad choice, because it was like right as the thoroughfare, you know. It's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks in, I wanted the newborn picture. I remember that, you know. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? What have I landed, you know, in? So perspective, right? It's huge. I feel like I kind of learned early on, as you guys feel, there's kind of 2 options. You can either go with this is not going or as good as it could be going. You could just kind of see everything like, oh, this is not quite what I envisioned. Or you could have a perspective of, isn't this kind of wonderful and chaotic, but I'm kind of beautifully in it, you know? And I feel like that is kind of the classic mom, day by day, sometimes moment by moment, season by season. What's your perspective, right? And I remember having a friend named Lisea early on, like it was in my first year with Tyler, who's my oldest, and she kind of came into my life and befriended me, and she had kind of she had the right perspective. I was constantly like, this isn't going, I'm not doing this, how can I make this better? I mean, I was constantly kind of stressed about how it wasn't going, but she kind of seemed to laugh at it and kind of throw on the diapers and go. In fact, she told me one time she went to a doctor's appointment, and this was so encouraging. You need to hear the stories that are like ultimately embarrassing. And she went to the pediatrician appointment, like for her 2-year-old, and he's checking, looks in her mouth, and there was a penny stuck up on the roof of her son's mouth. And when she told me, and then she laughed, and I thought, oh, you can actually laugh at this? Like that is funny. You know? I didn't see you there. But there's options, right? There's perspective, and it's about awareness. And a vision that has really helped me hold the perspective and fight for it is that ultimately, like Lori said, you have the big picture and the smaller pictures. And one of my big pictures that has helped me with perspective is that ultimately one of my hopes is that I want my boys to be people who have been enjoyed by me, genuinely enjoyed by me. And so ultimately, whatever message I give to them, because I think people live differently when they've been enjoyed, when they know that they're truly enjoyable. And so I can't really I can't fake enjoyment. We try really hard, but I think kids are sniffers. They know. It's like, you're just enjoying me because you think you should be enjoying me, versus I just enjoy you, you're awesome. Like, you know, there's something that I have to fight for, because if I want them to be people who have experienced being enjoyed, that has held me from seeing everything as like not going how it's supposed to be. That's just kind of held me. So that's just a little side note. That has helped me because I want them to feel that, to have experienced that from me. This is a place, no matter how hard it is, no matter how hard your day or your week or your season or last weekend, or how much you've failed in the last little bit of time or a long while, maybe you haven't gotten right yet, or you haven't quite landed this whole job and this vision thing. This is a good place. This is a great place and I feel like having a place like this has been critical for my well-being as a mom, like through the years, to have places, safe places, whether it be friendship or a table like this, where it's real. It's not the how-to book. It's not the chicken soup, book. It's like, no, this is kind of what happened this morning and yesterday, and we're fighting through it in a good way. Because let's just be honest, it's the potential kind of for the perfect storm is right here. We've got tiredness. We've got tiredness, right? We've got some extreme tiredness in this room, and even older moms, we have tiredness at different levels. So years of tiredness, or we've got very present tiredness. We've got tiredness, people. We've got a sense of being alone, even though we know it takes a village, and in an ideal setting, we're going to have people around us. That's beautiful. But really, I also always had the awareness, as you probably did, you kind of feel a sense often that the buck stops here. Like, you're the point person. You're the one that will kind of decide what happens in that day or how we go into tomorrow. You're the program setter oftentimes for your families. You might have a great partner in your husband, but you do feel sometimes, at least I have, felt a lot of times some loneliness in this role, because there's nobody else feeling the intensity that I'm feeling and putting the effort into it the way I am at some seasons. And the last thing is then we have the pressure. So the third storm, we got tiredness, we got feeling lonely, that's not unheard of. And we've got the pressure because we really want to do this well, right? And I don't care whether your modeling was horrendous or whether your modeling in your parents or people you've seen has actually been pretty good. We all have kind of ways that, hey, I might do this a little different. Like, we're kind of, this is a huge deal that most all of us in this room can identify with, that we really hope, pray, wish that we do it well, that we're not the problem in that kid's life, right? And so you put those three together. I'm really tired, I'm lonely, and I really want to do this well, and it can just be overwhelming. So just to kind of level the playing field, we all know that, and so that's normal. you're not off, you're not incredibly unhealthy for feeling that swirl sometimes. I wish more people would have said that to me in a couple of windows. But we tend to just expect more out of ourselves than we're able to do. That's kind of how we look for it. It's like, I think I'll be able to do this because now I'm in my 20s or 30s and I'm single and I haven't had to, and then we kind of enter in and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not able to do that like I envisioned that I might be able to do that. And that can be kind of a scary gap to face and kind of lonely. So that's all kind of hard news. I'm going to turn it up here. But one of the things, that's not the only story. That's not the only truths here. There are many, many more opportunities out of this than what we've just said. And I kind of want to kind of push us into that and invite you into this year with this idea that there are opportunities that you have because you're in this role too that others don't. And it's not about just, are we going to accomplish this or not? Are we going to do this well or not? There's opportunities that are in front of you. The first one, I'm just going to highlight a couple, but really we've got outward and inward opportunities. Outward and inward. So I'm just going to phrase it in my own language, but for you guys, just think, I've got outward opportunities, I've got inward. Outward would be kind of our function and our role, and a lot of the wisdom points you were talking about are kind of like how-tos, and they're wise. I mean, whether you're a reader and you absorb encouragement and constructive things that way, or maybe I was often like, I'd sit around people that were in seasons ahead of me and just like, how's this going for you? And what do you do? Oh, that's a good idea. I think I'll do that. I'm going to steal that. I mean, there's just kind of like, it's a how-to time, and there's a lot of logistics, whether it be about diapers or whether it be about playground discipline or whether it be about how do you sniff out or help your kids get in right classrooms, or then how do you help them tie ties, which I didn't take that lesson, but you have all the how-tos, and that's kind of the outward opportunity that we have to kind of grow and shift and change. You always have opportunity to kind of evolve and figure it out differently. You're not stuck. I called it with my kids a redo. I need a redo. I need a redo on that. And this is, by the way, something that I wasn't raised with, kind of a reset or redo option, or ask for forgiveness even, to go so far as to like say, gosh, I'd like to read. Can we talk about that again? Because yesterday I was totally off and hungry and grumpy. And I found every time that my kids have said, sure, let's do it. And I walk away going like, I wish I would have known that when I was a kid growing up, that we had a conversation yet to have that I never got to as a kid, but you can do that. So that's outward. But this is a bigger deal, I think, and this is something kind of a stretch for us, but there's inward opportunities going on right now. And I'm just kind of coming into seeing this more fully. But all of this change, and challenge that you're in, literally from your body to what's going on in your house every day, all the change and challenge is of your thoughts, of your feelings, of what you're able to do and actually what you're not able to do, these awarenesses that are happening for you. It's how you know yourself to be. This is a real season of change on a big scale, not just your function, but on the inside. And it's normal. It's to be expected that this kind of starts happening. It's thrown me sometimes, like not knowing myself exactly. But I want to encourage you about this, because I actually see this as an opportunity that when we're most internally challenged like that, kind of at the end of our limits or facing a new chapter, that's when we're primed to really grow. That's when we're primed to really grow, like on internal levels. And I almost feel, I kind of want to call us up this morning, that I feel like moms, and I don't want to say this as I just think that we have a distinct advantage to grow in life. We have a close-up look at some things going on. We're hitting midlife crisis, let me put it this way. We're hitting midlife crisis sometimes in the delivery room. We're sometimes facing that when we go through severe morning sickness. The wheels start wobbling, and the ways that we've known ourselves in strength and capability, and I can do this and I can do this, starts changing so early on. And the oh crap moment is like that lasts for 20 or 30 years sometimes, that we just kind of stay in this progression of like, oh my gosh, this is so uncomfortable. This is so difficult, but we see things differently, and we have an advantage to grow. Let me put it that way. It's an opportunity of what's going on the inside. We have an advantage to grow that sometimes our counterparts, our husbands, or others who haven't experienced it don't know how shaping and how humbling, but what a growing opportunity this can be. So, and it won't be movie-like, right? It won't be the Hallmark Channel a lot of times. There won't be a movie made about you, probably. I hate to say that, but there probably won't be. But it'll be more like, so for some of you, this will be a good analogy. It'll be like a wine, a fine wine. Like who you are, you have the potential to be a really great wine on the deeper internal levels and not be the 2-month-old thing. And that's a cool thing. The character, who you are, the essence of who you are is on this journey that really has some opportunities. So I'm going to give you one example of that. And this might be a little too much of a deep thought for this early in the morning, but it's a real thought. And it's about, I call it the paradox of getting dressed. Okay, so just go with me here. We all spend a lot of time dressing our kids, getting them prepared, and telling them where to go and what to do. I mean, that's our world, right? It's a lot down here, especially that's where it starts. It's either on top of a bed, or then it's down here, and then it's here, and then it's, and then you're kind of like, oh, humbled, and then you can't say anything. But that's kind of the progression, that's what happens. So we're exerting routine, organization, and control, right? That's how it works good. And we actually even cheer it on. It's like, oh, I feel good. I got them all out. Oh, they look good. Oh, this is great. But wow, inside the paradox is that we're kind of also aware that we're losing control. We don't have as many personal choices as we used to have. We don't go where we want to go, right? Don't you sometimes just like get mad sometimes? Like, gosh, I don't even have the choice, like to do some of the things. Those are our hard moments, right, Chrissy? But or we've kind of surrendered a lot of the things we've put how we used to think of ourselves, and now we're thinking of our kids or our family that way, and we're no longer thinking of ourselves with that kind of priority. And that actually will be an issue probably somebody will bring to you this year, is how do we take care of ourselves while we do this, right? I mean, that's challenging. But the deal is that we got two things going on. We're dressing, and in some ways we're losing control at the same time. So this is an inward opportunity that I'm talking about that actually if we seize it, if we capture it, has some real wine-like qualities, some deepening, some like who you are becomes more in this process. So Jesus actually kind of addresses this. He has a verse that kind of just fits right in this, and it comes in a moment. After he's done the whole crossing and he's made it through that, he's having breakfast on the beach with friends. And he's talking about what it means to love him and follow him, and what it means to love others because of that. And so it's a beautiful scene. But then he says this verse that kind of intersects with this dressing people that I want you to hear, and I just want to look at it real quick. In John 21, he says this. He says, "Truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." The narrative after that says this is about Peter's life, or this is about Jesus' life, what he just went through, that things happened that they didn't want to have happen, but it was kind of what happened in their life. But I think this has actually been something real in my life on a couple of fronts that means a lot. And it still means, believe me, it still means a lot to older mentor moms here too. This is about, it's not about something terrible coming, it's about what truly happens in maturity. Is that we dress ourselves when we get to the point where we dress and we kind of say where we want to go. And as we grow, the inevitable thing that comes is that we get dressed, and sometimes we have to go places where we don't want to go. But that's not a bad thing. Jesus is saying that is part of maturity, and there's deeper layers to go through with that. So control, because we all know, and if you don't know yet, you'll know really, really soon that being controlling has a real big downside. That as a mode in life for your kids, for your husband, for yourself, it's kind of a direct path to slavery. The more you need to control, the more you need to control, and then the more you need to control, right? So it's a mode that like you have to kind of push off of. And I don't mean that doesn't mean that you have some say-so and stuff, but control in and of itself, that can be exhausting. So this verse and this concept I'm talking about is kind of, if you tune into the internal thing going on, it's kind of prep for life downstream. It's kind of prep for how things go. It's prep when you stop dressing your kids for what happens in adolescence and adulthood, when you have to really back up and you don't have as much control and say, in fact, you actually don't know even where they're at. Can you imagine that? Some of you guys holding babies. Someday, you won't know where they are. They're somewhere in the world, and they're not with you. That's all you know. It's such a strange process, right? I mean, and I'm on the cusp. I have a 20-year-old, so I'm a couple years into this new season of like, wow. I mean, I knew it was coming, but this is like, I'm going to talk to him in 3 weeks. Like, this is weird, But this is not, I say this, here's your opportunity. This is not ugly and horrible. This is a picture of the progression that we're on, and Jesus is introducing it in a way that it means safety and trust at that point. Just like for our kids sometimes enjoy. Do you ever have some of your kids kind of go like this, and then you drop the shirt over them? It's like, that's like, okay, dress me. Okay, here I am. Like, just dress me, send me out. Where do I go? What time do I have to be back? Whatever. That's a lot of safety and trust that they're experiencing in us. It's beautiful. And we're on a progression on the inside of having less and less in our control. Can we imagine enjoying that with safety and trust the way maybe we did that with our kids? That's a stretch. But I've learned that what I've learned is that God really has me. And some of this is about recognizing that we need to be guided. That we need to be guided. We need to be led. As much good decisions as we can make. We can make good decisions about what movies are good and not, about vegetables, and about, we have a lot of things that we can read and know about, but we're all going to get in a zone where we don't know what's best, where we're out and beyond what we're comfortable to do. And at that point, we need to recognize we need to be guided in this. That loss of control is not a bad thing, because left to ourselves, we won't exactly know the right thing to do at a lot of junctures, right, Patty? I mean, we're like, Patty and I have talked a few times, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what to do. We need guidance. And this is what Jesus is talking about, that there is something coming where you can be guided and led. And that loss of control isn't like, oh my gosh, I'm losing control. There's some things really to grow into on the inside, on your internal journey, that is beautifully guided for us. So that's not to say that you're surrendering some healthy mothering. In fact, one of the key verses that Scott and I have really grabbed onto when I feel fearful, for some of you younger ones, or even some of you older ones who are in fearful places with your older kids, it's in Timothy. It says, God hasn't given us a spirit of timidity or fear, but of power and love and discipline. So God will give you what you need for the right amount of control and mothering that is shaping and helpful to your kids. As long as you don't cling to that need for your whole life forever. But He'll give you that, as well as lead you into being guided by Him, because we need it. So it's both. It's the paradox of getting dressed, okay? So that's kind of it. I just want to, whether we're dressing little ones, there comes a time when we're being dressed, and that's going on inside of all of us a little bit. We're kind of aware of that. But we have the privilege and the advantage of kind of seeing that close up in our kids. So I just want to bless you with inward and outward opportunities in this time, because there will be a lot of great things said, and then hopefully there will be some things that just address the truth of what's happening inside you can't quite describe, but you want to be in it, you want to grow, and you want to seize that moment in a beautiful way. I really think you guys are heroes. I want to say that lastly. I really think that moms have the hugest job, and oftentimes are the most guilt-ridden people walking the planet, because it's very daunting. But this group here, this is a great place to be, to just get perspective, whether you need perspective, whether you need to kind of recognize some of your internal and external things going on. This is a great place to be encouraged. So let me pray for you, and then I have some questions that you can kick around.